We take him, it's going to turn the draft upside down.
I don't think guys like this come along that often.
Thon Maker, born February 25th, 1997. The NBA has always been a league obsessed with the impossible. 7-foot giants who move like guards, big men who shoot from the perimeter with the touch of a shooting guard, athletes so gifted they seem to rewrite the rules of the game. They call them unicorns, players so rare and versatile they defy the limitations of their size. Today, the world marvels at Victor Wembanyama, an unusual phenom who can handle, shoot, and defend at an elite level. But before Wembanyama, the NBA had another unicorn, a player who carried the same promise but delivered only disappointment. His name was Thon Maker. Thon Maker wasn't just a prospect, he was a myth. A 7-foot-tall teenager who could dribble like a guard, rain three-pointers, and block shots with ease. His legend was born in the shadows of YouTube mixtapes, grainy clips that turned him into an internet sensation. He wasn't just another big man, he was the future. A generational talent who could change the game, who could stretch the floor, defend the rim, and create his own shot. Or at least, that's what the highlights promised. In 2016, the Milwaukee Bucks believed in that promise, selecting Maker with the 10th overall pick in the NBA draft. They weren't just drafting a player, they were investing in a dream. A belief that they had discovered the NBA's first true unicorn. But as the games piled up, the illusion began to crack. The smooth handles that dazzled in high school became turnovers under NBA pressure. The three-point shot that promised spacing was unreliable, neutralized by stronger, smarter opponents. But even as his struggles mounted, the story of Thon Maker didn't end. Whispers began to circulate, rumors that he was older than claimed, fueled by a high school yearbook photo that seemed to place him years beyond his reported age. Even though the Milwaukee Bucks stood by his official documents, the doubt never really disappeared. It became another shadow following a player already struggling to find his place. Thon Maker was supposed to be the NBA's first unicorn, a player who broke the mold and redefined the game. Instead, he became a reminder of how illusions can crumble under the weight of reality. The hype, the mystery, the endless promise, all of it meant nothing once the games began. In the end, the NBA's first unicorn was a mirage that vanished almost as quickly as it appeared, and it all happened for these 3 reasons. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Thon Maker was a 7-foot forward center with the skills of a guard, or at least that was the myth. Born in South Sudan, Maker's journey began in a war-torn country his family was desperate to escape. They found refuge in Australia, where Maker's height and unusual agility made him impossible to ignore. He was discovered by Australian coach Edward Smith, who saw in Maker the promise of a generational talent, a player who could break the mold and redefine the game. Under his mentorship, Maker's legend grew. He dominated high school competition, his highlights spreading like wildfire across the internet. His mixtapes showcased a 7-foot phenom who could dribble like a guard, shoot from range, and protect the rim. As his fame soared, Maker made a bold move, reclassifying to skip college and declare for the 2016 NBA draft. The Milwaukee Bucks believed in the hype, selecting him 10th overall. Stunt number 1, the hype of intrigue over reality. Thon Maker was never a player defined by what he had proven. He was a player defined by what people believe he could become. He was a 7-footer with guard skills, a player who could supposedly shoot, dribble, and defend at an elite level. But almost none of that was ever truly tested. His legend was born from intrigue, whispers of a talent so rare it didn't need proof. Scouts saw a giant of a teenager launching step-back jumpers, racing coast to coast, and thought they were witnessing the future. But those who looked closer saw a different story. In reality, Maker's skills were always more myth than mastery. His ball handling, which seemed smooth in his mixtapes, was shaky under pressure. His shooting, hyped as a strength, was wildly inconsistent. His defense, where he was expected to be a shot-blocking force, was a mix of mistimed jumps and poor positioning. But the NBA didn't see that. They saw a mystery, a player who seemed to break the rules of what a 7-footer could be, and it was that mystery that fueled his rise. The Bucks weren't just drafting a player in 2016, they were buying into a fantasy of the league's first true unicorn, a talent who could transform the game. But the more Maker played, the more the reality set in. He was a project, a raw athlete with glimpses of skill but none of the polish to compete at the highest level. His intrigue was a double-edged sword. It made him a lottery pick but also placed expectations on him that he was never ready to meet. Thon Maker's hype was never about what he did, it was about what the NBA hoped he could do, and that illusion couldn't survive the reality of the game. Stunt number 2, the dream chased too soon. Thon Maker's journey to the NBA was a race, but it was a race he was never prepared to win. Instead of taking the time to build his game, refine his skills, and understand what it meant to be dominant, Maker skipped the most critical step in his development. He manipulated the system, reclassifying to jump straight from high school to the NBA, bypassing college and the growth it could have provided. And for a player who was always a project, a bundle of potential with no clear proof of production, that decision became his downfall. Because the truth is, Thon Maker never knew what it felt like to be the best. He was never the number one player in high school. He was never a dominant force who learned how to impose his will on the game. Instead, he was a tantalizing mystery, a player scouts projected as a future star because of his unique size and agility. But potential is nothing without experience, and when Maker entered the NBA, he didn't arrive as a proven player, he arrived as a hopeful myth. College could have been his proving ground. It could have been the place where he learned to lead, to dominate, and to refine the skills his highlights promised. But he skipped it all, and by going straight to the NBA, he walked into a grown man's league without the confidence or foundation to compete. His struggles weren't just a result of poor skills, they were the result of a guy who never learned how to be great before being asked to be a star. In the NBA, the hype around Thon Maker was a weight, and without the confidence that comes from being the best, that weight crushed him. He simply didn't know how to be what they wanted him to. Stunt number 3, the myth of skills that never existed. Thon Maker's NBA career was built on a dream. The idea that a 7-footer with guard skills could redefine the game. But the brutal truth was that when the hype faded, Maker was left with nothing but the numbers. And those numbers told the story of a player who was never truly special. For all the talk of his unique skill set, his actual production exposed the truth. Thon was a 7-foot player who couldn't rebound, couldn't shoot consistently, and couldn't dominate in any area of the game. Despite his height, Maker's rebounding was shockingly poor. Over his career, he averaged just 2.8 rebounds per game, an embarrassing mark for a player his size. His shooting was another myth that unraveled under NBA pressure. Sold as a stretch big, Maker shot just 32.7% from 3 over his career, never becoming a reliable floor spacer. Defensively, where his athleticism was supposed to shine, he averaged more than 1 block per game just once, and barely with 1.1 blocks per game in the 2018-19 season. But the most damning truth was his scoring or lack of it. He was never a gifted scorer. He didn't have the ball handling to create his own shot, the touch to finish consistently around the rim, or the three-point accuracy to punish defenders who gave him space. For his career, he averaged just 4.6 points per game, an insignificant impact for a player who was once projected to be a generational talent. Thon Maker wasn't just raw, he was fundamentally average. He didn't have the elite athleticism of a Giannis, the scoring gift of a Kevin Durant, or the all-around dominance of a Victor Wembanyama. What he had were possibilities that disappeared the moment they were tested. All in all, Thon Maker was supposed to be the NBA's first true unicorn, a 7-footer with guard skills who could change the game. But the dream was already an illusion. He never took the time to develop his talent, skipping college in a rush to the NBA spotlight. He was never dominant, a project player who went straight to the league where raw potential isn't enough. And in the end, he simply wasn't special. The skills that were supposed to make him a generational talent were never more than a myth. The NBA wanted Thon Maker to be a unicorn, but what they got was a reminder of how quickly dreams can unravel when they're built on intrigue instead of substance. Where the NBA failed with Maker, they finally got it right with another 7-footer who was everything Maker was supposed to be. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.